The story of the Tower of Babel is the last major episode of this section of Genesis. Genesis 1 through 11 is often referred to as one section because it covers history that explains why the world is set up the way it is. Chapters 1 and 2 explain who God is and who humanity is. Chapters 3 through 6 explain the origins of sin. But chapters 7 through 8 showcase that God will never give up. He will always be with his people. And now, Genesis 11 explains how there are many different peoples and languages all around the whole world. So what does the Tower of Babel show us in our own walks with the Lord? You will notice at the beginning of the story, things start off kind of eerie. The narrator tells us that the people went eastward, which has been established as a negative direction. Adam and Eve, for example, left heading east. Cain was expelled towards the east. Now, the people are heading even further east. In this plain, they begin to make a city. Now, cities are not inherently bad. Okay, I grew up in one, but they do not have a good record in the Bible. Cain makes a city after murdering Abel. Later in Genesis, we will hear about the evil of the two cities of the plain called Sodom and Gomorrah. The big issue with the citizens of Babel is both what they say and what they don't say. In the middle of the story, we hear that the people want to make this tower that touches towards the sky. Why? Because they want to make their name great. This is what they say. And what they don't say is anything about the name of God. The term name is mentioned all throughout Genesis 1 through 11, but it does become associated with the name of Yahweh in chapter 5 when people began to call on the name Yahweh. As opposed to partnering with the Lord like Noah did, the people of Babel cared more about their own power. Hence the irony when the text says, "But the Lord came down to the city and the tower that the people had started building. And the Lord said, if as one people, all sharing a common language, they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be beyond them. Come, let us go down there and confuse their language so they won't be able to understand each other." The irony is that God comes down before this tower is ever finished. The Lord scatters the people because this large gathering was not operating within the ways of God. The confusing of their language operates as a consequence and a blessing. It confuses the people so that they do disperse, but it also reminds the people of God's blessing to multiply and fill the earth. I remember one time when I had to be reminded to remember the name of the Lord. I had just graduated with my master's degree and I was teaching a new class when I received an invitation to go back to my alma mater to be part of a panel with some notable names. I remember wrestling if I could go because that would mean missing several class days. But I also thought it was worth it because it would be something great to add to my experiences and, if I'm being completely honest, to add to my resume. So I asked a family member what they thought about the situation, and I'll never forget their response. He looked at me and he said to me that if I think it will advance the name of God and serve his kingdom, then I should do it. So the next day, I got to my email and I emailed my alma mater and told them I would not be joining. I declined the invitation not because it wouldn't have made God's name known. I declined it because prior to that moment, I never even thought about this opportunity as a moment to serve God. I simply cared about serving myself. In our walks with God, Jesus calls us into a new beginning. In the beginning, it was about God, but somewhere along the way, it became just about us. The Spirit calls us back to him, setting our focus on his name. Instead of trying to put your name in the sky, lift the name of Jesus, who put the stars in the sky. There are a lot of ways to say Jesus. Jesus, Jesus, Yahshua, Yesu. The beautiful truth, however, is that there is power in the name of God, not because of how we say his name, but because of who he is. Jesus has a lot of names, and at the end of the day, our life is to be about making his name known.